Trip Smith saying, I'm guessing it's something in OBS.
Mm-hmm.
Who's Trip Smith?
Well, this is weird, Frank. So, like, we're live here, but no one's on that chat.
And they can't get to this because we've already set up another event, or how could we give them this link somehow?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Just give them this link.
Okay, give it to me in Slack, and then...
Look, it's showing up.
Okay.
Live now.
All right.
I'll drop it in there, you drop it in there, and everybody. I mean, I'm pretty sure if they just went to the main page, they would see the new stream. They'll see it. You'll see it, all right. You'll see it.
We've been live this whole time. Okay.
Oh, I love YouTube. And, I mean, to do this, look, here's the thing. To do this on Facebook took me about 30 seconds to figure out. Ever since I've been using YouTube live streaming, it's been... I love YouTube, but oh my God. It's been a cluster cluck.
Remove any web addresses and try again. It won't let me add in a web address.
Oh, that won't let you paste in a URL, right?
Yeah.
So just tell everybody to go to the main Pull My Focus page. Yeah.
Okay.
If you go to youtube.com/pullmyfocus, then you'll just get to, you'll see the live stream. There's people here. Hello. This is our first time doing a live stream. Doesn't this look like everyone's first time doing a live stream? This is everyone's first time doing a live stream going, how the heck does this work?
Okay, here we go. Oh, and Christian's there too. Awesome.
I'm telling you, man, it's like I've been doing so we've been doing live stream before YouTube even had live streaming.
Yeah.
We've been doing live streaming from, oh my God, before we even had a TriCaster.
You know, before there was YouTube.
No.
Okay,
well,
maybe not.
Not
maybe
really.
not really.
But we didn't have a TriCaster. We had like a really old version of OBS and whatever on our other channel. And then we bought a TriCaster. We bought a TriCaster 40. Then we bought a TriCaster Mini. And those things are easy. You just click a button and it's done. Now, of course, that thing costs $6,000.
All right, so today was a test. Thanks for being patient. And sorry to anyone who was on the live stream while we didn't think we were on the live stream. The test was to set an event on YouTube and then stream with that. And of course, we're not going to just use the camera on our laptop. We're using, what is it called, sir?
Don't mess with the cam link while it's plugged in. The last thing you want is to unplug that. This is our relationship, by the way. He does stuff and I yell at him.
Sorry.
But certain people know that, like Gally knows that.
Yeah.
And Christian knows that.
A shout out to not just any old Rodney, but
Rodney
B. Hunt.
Rodney's pretty much the reason. Wow, that's a big fly.
Whoa.
Rodney's pretty much the reason why we're doing a live stream right now, because I watch his channel and he does awesome stuff. I'm looking at the fly. I'm sorry.
Look at the camera.
I'm looking at this fly. It just flew in. I'm expecting that Rodney will do some serious stuff because, man, your stuff is really good. And, yeah, keep going, man. Keep going.
Paulo from Brazil. So, welcome. And Trip Smith as well. Got all the regs. And, of course, Gali, who's
the editor extreme. Like, all I hear, whenever Gali works with Frank, all I hear in Slack is Frank going, oh, this is amazing. I'm saying, oh, it's amazing. Your stuff is so good.
Oh, my God, look at this.
Yeah, well,
why can't you do that?
Get another best friend, motherfucker.
Yeah. And a shout out to Christian Pierre, who's, he's so regal. He's got like a first name for a last name and vice versa. He can be Pierre Christian Pierre. All right. So, okay, so now we're streaming.
Yeah.
15 minutes late, but that's live when you're doing tests. So
I'll keep my eye on the chat too.
Okay.
While you drone on about some questions that people have.
All right, so what we want to do, so if there's certain questions we've been starting to get now, which are interesting, listed from the videos we've been posting, because we're up to we're at 60 videos, 61 maybe? No, 61 videos now.
I think you're doing 61 now.
62 next week. Yours was 61 this week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We're up 61 videos, and
any content creator knows you just forget what you did last
after a while you're like, wait, what? So what we want to do is just answer questions from viewers that we've been getting and kind of give that out to everybody in a video, and also if anyone who's actually in chat has any questions that they want to pose. But also, you know, as Manu mentioned, we've done, you know, all kinds of live streams, particularly with our swing dance organization, Yehudi. But now that Rodney turned us on to the Cam Link, we're like, oh, you mean we could use our C100 Mark II?
Go look at Rodney's channel. Seriously.
Yeah. And he's got a cool accent. But what I want to know from Rodney is what you know, where were you going in your car when you were like, oh, I got an idea. I got to do this video right now. You just stopped the car and you parked and you did one of your videos. So
he's a creator. It doesn't stop.
Like, it just comes up and he's like, I got to do my video now. All right. So
I have some stuff for color correction for people who are interested too. Some follow-up to that too.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So lighting artist, in regards to the video we did on CRI and affordable fluorescence, he asked if we were having any problems with flickering, and he mentioned frame rates of 50, 60, and 100 frames per second. And he brought that up because he was doing slow motion work. And he also asked about, you know, what is the real difference between a KinoFlow bulb and a regular, like, you know, fluorescent like a Philips, which is kind of the standard. So for the first question, so as you guys probably know, if you shoot slow motion, you're shooting faster, right? So normally we're shooting 30 frames per second, and if we want to shoot in slow motion, we're going to shoot 60, 120 frames per second, or even higher if we can. And then, of course, when we play that 60 seconds back, it's actually playing at 30, so it's slow. You have more information, but it's being played over a longer period of time. So the thing with flickering is, as you notice, the increments I mentioned were 30, 60, and 120. And the reason for that is in the United States, we still, so we're at 120 volts and 60 hertz, which is the frequency, you know, of AC current.
That's right.
And
thanks, Obama.
Thanks, Obama. Thanks, Obama.
That doesn't make any sense.
The rest of the world is, pretty much all the rest of the world is 220 volts, which is, and 50 hertz.
50 hertz.
50 hertz. 220 is actually more efficient to go across power lines. Yeah, I mean, just like we're the only ones who are using still imperial measurements. I think the only other country maybe is Sri Lanka, and everyone else is using metric, which, you know, why haven't we switched yet? That would be nice. But so in the U.S., we shoot at 30, and NTSC was 30, you know, 29.97 was 30 frames per second.
Gally says the metric system is better.
It is better.
It is.
Especially at cooking.
It is.
Oh my God.
I think it is.
Now in Europe, 50 hertz. So there, we were NTSC, they were PAL. PAL was, instead of 30 frames, was 25. And which means they were 50 interlace.
Phase,
right? It was 2 frames.
Phase alternating.
So really think we were 30 frames, but it was interlace. So it was like, think of it as we were 60 interlace. Europe is 50 interlace. They've kind of gotten away. I think we've all gotten away from NTC and all that. But anyways, in Europe, their increments are 50, 100 frames per second and on like that. So if you took any of our cameras here and you went to Europe to shoot, you would get flicker if you were shooting anywhere where there were fluorescents. If you were shooting at 30 frames a second, you have to adjust. Otherwise, you will be very surprised and unhappy. So the other thing is the difference between KinoFlows and fluorescence. So as I mentioned in that video, back in the day,
Which video was this?
CRI and affordable fluorescence.
Okay.
Fluorescence, when I would shoot, so this is back in the 80s and 90s, we'd go shoot in a grocery store. All those lights would be, usually they would be green. Sometimes you would get ones that have these purple spikes. So fluorescents were just horrible. And what we actually would have to do is take fluorescents out of the ceiling, put them into a fluorescent unit that we rigged up with pigeon plates on grip stands and light stands. In other words, use all of the same light, so everything had the same green spike, and then they would adjust it in post. Now, so then KinoFlows came out, and they had CRI, color rendering index, that was 95. Fluorescents you were lucky if they were 60 back then, and they had that spike. Today, the fluorescents have gotten a lot better, the technology in them, even though they're slowly going the way of the dodo because of LEDs. They're a lot better, and if you go to Home Depot or wherever, you're going to get, you can actually get the CRI. It's actually listed in there, and that's because of the European Union and all that. Now, that stuff has to be listed, which is awesome. So you'll see a few that are 70, but most are 80 and 90, and that's great. So today, the fluorescents really aren't that bad. You really don't need to get a Kino. The other big difference, though, between the two is you can buy a KinoFlow bulb, and you can put it in a regular fluorescent socket. And it won't really be that much different. And the reason is the KinoFlow bulbs they're like 22 bucks a pop. Like a pack of 6 is like 130 bucks. A pack of 10, I think, is like 30 bucks of regular fluorescent bulb. I mean, it's like $3 to $5 for one fluorescent bulb.
We're using fluorescents right now.
Right. Well, those are LEDs, but I'll talk about.
Oh, those LEDs?
Yep, those are LED.
Wow.
So.
Oh, they're Philips.
The big thing about a KinoFlow is KinoFlow kits, which are $1,000, $1,500 and up, they all come with a ballast, and that ballast sends extra voltage, I don't know if it's voltage or actual current, to a KinoFlow bulb. And therefore, KinoFlow bulbs with that KinoFlow ballast give you a lot more light. Because in film, they need as much output as possible. We don't need that with video technology and what we're dealing with now. So that's the other. So you really don't need. Bottom line is, you don't need KinoFlows today. If you can get KinoFlow kits, like that's something I want to upgrade to at some point.
Didn't we rent a KinoFlow kit once?
I think we did. I'm not sure.
For the lamb shoot? Was that a KinoFlow kit?
No, we had an LED. It was an.
What was in that bag that you shot the couscous with, or whatever?
Oh, I don't remember. No, those were Aries.
Aries. Okay.
Those are Aries. Those are tungsten. Yeah.
Post production.
But KinoFlow kits they're like the plastic version of corrugated cardboard. They're really lightweight and foldable, and we would actually have guys with a 4-foot fluorescents with the fusion on them, with the ballast tied to them, with someone with a lot of cable following someone on the street to give them daylight.
Uphill in the snow both ways.
In the snow both ways. While it was 95 degrees, 95% humidity. It was, you know what? It was hard back then. You kids today, you don't know what it's like. So that's the not so quick answer to that.
All right.
Anyone have any other questions about that? Any other questions before we move on to the next topic of this meeting?
I want to talk about. Well, I'll wait for questions to come in.
Nothing.
But I was going to talk about.
You put everyone to sleep. I just see snoring. Sorry.
The question about the color correction video that I just did. The question about what are highlights, what are whites, blacks, shadows. I mean, there was a little bit of a discussion going on. I have an example I'll show you on the computer, but just before I get to the computer, just remember. So what they did was kind of just renamed mids, lows, highs, high, mid, low. Just named it to something that is appropriate for an image that you're looking at. Blacks, shadows, right? Shadows, right? Whites, highlights. And so, I mean, people get that generally, but then they're like, well, how does this relate to what I'm looking at? So I'll give you a really nice visual way of describing this stuff. So what I have here is a 6-band gradient, not even a gradient, it's a step of white to black. And this is my RGB parade. And let me switch to Premiere because I'm looking at OBS. Okay, here we are. It's not my RGB parade, sorry, my Luma waveform. Basically, it's the luminance levels of that picture across the IRE scale, which just stands for in radio engineers, into something of radio engineers. It's not even, it doesn't even mean anything. It doesn't even mean anything. Good. But IRE always sounds smart, so if you want to sound smart to anybody, right? If someone comes over to your desk and is like, "Oh, what are you doing?" I say, "Well, I'm just measuring the IRE so I can get the exposure correct." They walk away and they think you're fucking amazing. So I'm on my Luma waveform right now, and as you see, there's like a stair step that's happening. If I make that nice and big.
Oh, that's cool.
And so this is measuring, right, the white. It's all the way up at 100. Then the next step down is 80. And I actually made these gradients 20 luma down from each one. So 100, 80, 60, 40, 20, 10, 0. Now, watch what happens, though. So we're talking about highlights and stuff like that in blacks. Very simply, I'm going to come over to my Lumetri panel, and if I move the blacks around, it's kind of, the blacks I can't get any lower than, I have clamp signal on. Let me turn clamp signal off. It's still not matching. Well, it's not going all the way down, but notice how it's affecting pretty much only the levels that are kind of below 20, right? Below 20 IRE, I mean, there's the one at 40, but it's barely doing anything as I bring the blacks all the way down. So that's to show you that when you adjust the blacks, you're only adjusting, it's intelligently adjusting the lowest of those luminous levels. And in contrast to that, if I adjust the highlights, right? So I'm bumping up the highlights now. It's coming all the way up. From 80 up is affecting it. Okay? But it's kind of leaving alone the ones in the middles. Now, if I want to affect the shadows are going to be a little higher. Notice how, okay, from 20 up, it's moving up and down. But it's really leaving 80 alone. Yeah? And I don't want to belabor this point, but if I go to the whites, cool. Once again, it's only really going to affect that level of luminance in your image. It's hard to see when you're looking at an image that it's doing anything, but looking at these scales here, it clearly shows you what you're messing with.
So that sounds like this is a great way to kind of practice playing with these levels and that.
Yeah.
How do you bring up this? You probably mentioned.
Well, I created this in the legacy text.
So maybe we can post it on the.
Yeah.
On the.
It's basically a 6-scale gradient with no dithering.
That's a great
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. And one thing I also want to show you is contrast, right? So if I mess with the contrast, notice the middle area starts to lose contrast, which means contrast means, I guess you could say depth, or how far one level of luminous is from another. So when you reduce the contrast, you're simplifying the image. If I take, let's take really quick. These are some shots that you remember these shots that you did?
Yeah.
At Carmichael or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
If I take this image and I reduce the contrast, it looks flatter. I don't know if this is even coming across on YouTube, but I just wanted to throw a picture up there so you can see the difference. It looks flatter. Now if I take the contrast, we're going back to this, and let me go back to my Lumetri scopes. So that's flatter. If I widen the contrast, notice how it spreads, like that 80 and that 20 come all the way up to 90 and like 10. It like spreads the distance between light between each other. Come over here and do the same thing. Now I have the contrast ramped way up. And Premiere always has trouble. But now, basically the lights. So, you know, that's kind of the point I wanted to make using this scale to show Everyone always asks, what's the difference between all those things? If you look at how Adobe put it on the basic correction panel, it lists it from highlights to blacks, right? Highlights, shadows, whites, black. Well, shadows and whites seem to be flipped.
That's weird.
I would put highlights, whites, shadows, blacks.
Oh, that's weird. Why did they do that?
Thanks for banging
Thanks
up my point.
a lot, Adobe.
Thanks, Premiere.
It's like when you go to order a steak, you know, what's the difference between a New York strip and a this and a that? It matters what part of the country you go. Like, there's multiple names for everything.
Yeah.
All they're doing is making it more complicated.
So I hope that helps a little bit. But really, in practice, you just got to play around with them. And that's it.
And that's the shout out to Pranav, who was asking about that, who is hero in my gaming clan, Big Fist clan, BFC, gaming clan. Overwatch,
Does he play Overwatch?
Yeah.
What's his main?
He plays. He doesn't play that much. He's too busy. He's studying film as a minor, computer engineering as a major.
Cool. That's awesome.
Well, because he says he wants to actually make money for a living. You know, he's
Yeah.
got a point.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So on our Lux and Lumens video, which is the one that has like, I don't know, 45,000 views now or something. That one's kind of insane because Lux and Lumens,
45,000 views.
I think so, is, you know, that measurement of light luminosity is used.
15,000.
Oh. What did I get 45?
It's got like, I don't know, 170,000 views.
That video it's this big on the screen. The it's probably watch minutes or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
If it's getting bright, it's actually overcast for one of the few times a year that it happens here in sunny California. So our light levels are going crazy. So Lux and lumens are measurements for you know, light intensity and all that, and it's also used outside of the film biz for, you know, the brightness. What's the brightness of a cell phone screen, and flashlights and headlights and things like that. So I think that's why that one's like, if you type Lux and lumens as a search, we come up as the #1 search, because it was driving us nuts and no one ever explained it really well. Right. And there's confusion about it. It's understandable. And Fahim Boss posted 1 lumen equals 1 candlelight. The higher lumens per watt, the better. No thanks needed. And hey, thanks for watching and subscribing. But you're right, no thanks are needed because we can't thank you because that's actually wrong. Sorry, buddy.
So one lumen doesn't equal.
It does not equal one candle. So a candle. So again, this is imperial and metric. Candle is imperial measurements like inches and all that stuff, and 1 candle is literally a candlelight. But that's the total amount of light output by something. And then foot candles is a foot away over a certain area. How much does that 1 candle give us, right? So when I use
where's he going?
my light meter, right? This is my old.
He sleeps with this thing.
My old Sekonic light meter that is crazy old, but I love it. I mean, I got this when I was in film school, so I bought this in 1987, maybe even in 86.
But wasn't there was no color in light back in 1987?
Yeah, and light was different.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so it doesn't measure light very well today because it's solid. It's not even, it's just.
My son actually asked me, Dad, when you were young, was there color? Like, he wasn't joking. I was like, you're going to die today.
And then he said, people. And you're like, what? and then you showed him Black Dynamite, which is a great movie. And Black Dynamite 2 is coming out. Dino. Okay.
All right.
What was I saying?
You were going to talk about
before you so rudely interrupted. I ruded myself. Okay. And then, so lumens is the metric version of foot candle, and lux is the foot candle version of it. So generally, normally what we want to deal with is, well, how much light is on the subject, right? Because the holy trinity of film is you need a light source, like the sun or something, to reflect off of subject, object, prop, whatever's in your shot, and then that reflected light is what is captured by your eye or here, a camera. So if you don't have one of those 3 things, you have nothing. And so this guy reflects the amount of, measures the amount of light that is hitting this area. The other type of light meter, spot meter, is used by the camera, and you point it at a spot, and that tells you, well, here's how much light is being reflected off, right? Because that gives you contrast. because different skin tones and other things, right, are going to reflect different amount of light. So anyways, normally we care about foot candles or lux, but lumens, we only care about lumens because when we're trying to buy a light, especially if you're going to spend a lot of money on one from B&H Photo or on Amazon or whatever, that's LEDs or whatnot, you want to know how much output you're getting. So what he's saying is here, the higher lumens per watt, the better. Okay, that kind of is sort of true, like if, but it matters on what type of lights you're using. Point being is, if I'm dealing with just tungsten lights, airy lights, for example,
those
or
normal
Richardson,
orangey looking lights.
Yeah, you can. There's a 100-watt inky Mo Richardson. It goes up to 350, 650, a 1K fluorescent. So that's 1,000 watts. So traditionally in film, you go, what's the wattage? I got a 5K. I got a 10K. And you'll kind of do the same thing with HMIs as well. But when you bring fluorescents, which are more efficient, you get more lumens per watt. And you bring in LEDs where you get even more per watt. That's kind of what he's talking about, but
it seems to be less. Yeah, it even just makes sense to me. The LED will pump out more light per that 1 watt.
Per that 1 watt.
Because you can look at that. I look at the bulb. We replaced a lot of our bulbs in my house with LEDs. It's like, 5 watts, but it looks like it lights the whole room.
It's like but the other issue is that it's also price. How much are you paying? The fluorescent. So we're using a fluorescent right now. Normally I wouldn't, but it was shady earlier with LED bulbs. So that costs $15, and each of those bulbs costs maybe $6. So you think about the total price. What are we talking? $25, $30 total compared to an LED par, and how much that's putting out total. So it gets into different things. So it's not as simple as a one-to-one comparison, and ultimately you just have to buy things and do it. Another problem you run into is this. So this is a practical bulb. It's one of the EcoSmart ones you get at Home Depot.
That's an LED?
This is an LED bulb. It's meant to replace tungsten bulbs. This one's daylight balanced. So it's 5,000 Kelvin, and it's 13 watts. And it gives out 1,575 lumens. So this supposedly gives off more than one of my LED bulbs. Well, a little less. Those LED bulbs are about 1,700. But here's the thing. That total lumen output, right? This is going to get really bright. Boom!
I love your use of visual.
You're
supposed to say eyes. You're supposed to say
eyes. Lights up. It's like when they open the suitcase.
Cool. You can plug it back in.
It's like when they open the suitcase in
Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction, but also I was thinking originally it was in Repo Man, and then they would turn to dust.
He knows how to go back to the original
way back
that Quentin Tarantino ripped off.
So if you look at this bulb, what you notice is it's spherical, and that there's this base, and the base kind of chokes up onto it like a turtleneck sweater. Well, that total 1,575 lumen output, a whole bunch of it's going into the base. They measure, when they measure this stuff, they have meters to do it and all that, but it's measuring an area. It's not like this big spherical thing that they stick it in. There's no meter like that. So they're doing equations going, that's the total output. There it is. Like, well, it's like when you go to rent, apartment, and it goes out to 1,000 square feet. Well, they measure that out to the outside of the wall, so it's not the actual usable space.
If your table was all your furniture was an exact square, and you could put it right in the corner, and there's no molding. A lot of ifs in this,
there's
right?
a molding and all that, But they measured out to the wall. I remember we rented an office when I had my magazine film crew back in the 90s, and it was a stone building. The walls are like this wide. I'm like, we measured the inside, and when you do the math, you're like, we're getting ripped off here, man. So, but that's why a lot of times we like to use LED pars. So the practical, I'll generally stick this in a socket, and I try to get dimmable ones so that this is if it's in a shot and I can dim it. So it's meant to look like a light. It's not meant to light people. The LED pars, are reflective,
I love
parabolic reflectors. This one is going to get a little bit bright, but not too bright, right? I don't want to blow up my sensor. But this pushes out all of the lumens. So this guy is only, only 1,200 lumens. But the vast majority of those lumens are getting pushed out where we want it. We got one right now going into
these. I'm so glad you introduced me to those. I'll use the LED panel that we built, or I'll use the umbrella, and then I'll use one of those as what do we call it?
An eye
light.
Fill light or an eye light?
An eye light.
Yeah.
Because of the darker skin, I'm going to light myself a little more, right? So I love those things. Those things come in handy. I'll throw some diffusion in front of it, and all set.
And I still got to do a video on that, on an eye light.
We have to do a video on eye lights.
Yeah, and how.
Because I want to do a sketch on raccoon eyes.
Right.
We got to do a sketch on raccoon eyes.
Raccoon eyes are if you're outside, and particularly if someone has, so if the sun's high and you're not having any fill, and people have, particularly some people have a bit of a bridge here, so you'll see in photos, and you'll probably notice it now that I mention it, particularly on Facebook, where their eyes are just dark like a raccoon's. So you do a fill light. We also want
because of the shadow,
because of the shadow, and because the sun is the problem with the sun is when it's high, which is most of the day, but also because we want to be able to use the term Kirk light and show an image from original Star Trek.
Yeah,
because
Kirk light.
one of the things you would do.
Oh shoot, that's right.
Oh, where did I put it? We would take
Kirk light. I love that.
Oh, hand me the cardboard. On the in between the two, the cutout I use on the other side, in between no, pass it.
Oh, this.
Yeah.
This?
Yeah. This I just I was going to throw this away today. We use this for the video talking about polarization. But one of the things we would do, I can actually do it right now. I'm going to do it on you. No, I'm going to do it on you here. You sit down. This light's going to kind of get a little bright.
This is live. We're doing it live.
So, whoops. So what we would do is put a light through a card like this,
okay, with
diffusion on the light onto someone, and if you watch, you can see it on old Star Trek, particularly on Kirk.
Quick, do it to me. Do it to me.
I'm close to
I want to do it. I want to see it.
Here we go.
Is it working?
Yeah. That's good. Hold on, I got to get out of the frame because I'm blowing the camera.
You would put that on a dimmer, right?
Yeah, I'll put that on a dimmer.
But Bones, I don't think I can survive the threat of the Klingons. Bones. Okay.
But normally they used it when he was giving a speech and he was talking to.
And it was a nice tight shot, right?
And it was a nice tight shot, and he was enticing an alien green woman to his wily ways, because that's the way TV was in the 60s. So, anyways, all right, we're getting close to.
Gally has a question.
She has a question because we're at a half hour.
Yeah, we're almost done, guys. Question regarding color correction. I'm working on a project that has footage from 3 different cameras. I'm trying to do color correction on certain shots, but they turn out a bit red pinkish. Even though white balance seems to be good. And also the skin tone, it's really bad in shots that have no skin tone at all. How do you start dealing with that? Tried using curves and color wheels, but I get lost all the time. 3 different cameras. 3 different cameras? Like, they probably are different because, I don't know, smaller budgets probably not going to be able to afford like 3 C100s or 3 5Ds. So it sounds like you're dealing with typical, like, they didn't think about it when they shot it, and then they gave it to you, and it's your problem. And Gally says, yeah. So.
And is the monitor, is it your monitor, or is it at a gig where, is it calibrated? Is it?
Well, first thing I want to say is, like, there was some, I think Gally had some comments about the chef and now the shot looking orange. And actually, you made a good point because there's flames in his face. So he's going to look orange because he's getting lit from another place. But trust your scopes, first of all. Don't trust your eyes, and don't trust an uncalibrated monitor. Because if you're using a Mac monitor, okay, so if you only have a Mac with the Retina display, whatever, these good Macs, these are actually pretty good. When I was doing the 2 extra screens, my 2 Asus screens, I would put this guy in the middle and color correct on this guy because the color's pretty good. until I got my new Dell monitor, which was more color correct. Then I used that. All I can say, Golly, is first of all, trust your scopes. Trust that your white balance is good, and trust, if the scopes say your white balance is good, you're set. If you have no reference in those shots, and you're white balancing them separately, that could be tricky. What I would do is I would take the beauty shot. Some of those shots, if you have 3 different shots from 3 different cameras, one of them has a really nice shot. You just have to look to see which shot you really want to sell. Correct that shot. Match the other ones to that shot. Now, if you're moving inside and outside, you can get away with different, white balance setups and all that stuff. But if it's all like daytime, there has to be something consistent for you to keep matching those shots against each other. But I would take that colorful, beautiful shot, correct that one, match the ones that contextually should be around it. If it's, we'll do this. Well, I can't use it. Okay, say like a prosumer camera and a C100. Oh God, please don't ever do that. But if we had to do that and we were both like in a kitchen and I had to match, I'm going to take the C100's best shot and then match the prosumer camera to that. Does that make sense? And I think
that was a good point you brought up too, right? About we were talking about the other day, which is right. Trust your scopes, because the other thing, they put these optical illusion images now, not actually an image meant for an optical illusion, but photos where people are like, hey, this street looks wrong, or what's the color of that dress? Remember all that? There are color optical illusions where if you have a dot of a certain color or a certain shade of gray on white, it will look a different shade than it is when it's against gray or black or a white dot. So there's a name for it. I don't remember what it's called, but when you have a certain amount of color around something, it influences the overall look. So that's when it then gets into, after you're starting from a base of correct color and correct exposure, then you can start to tweak.
Yeah. And I'm not a color scientist. Neither one of the color scientists, but we've done this for a long time. Your eyes are going to fool you. Well, colorists or color scientists or people working on this kind of stuff, believe it or not, they'll work on. I mean, did you ever think, why is the Premiere interface gray? It's gray because they don't want your eyes to be affected by any particular outstanding color in the interface against your thing. Even if you go to a colorist studio, the studio is going to be gray, and they'll actually have like somewhere to look, so that's gray. They'll look at the thing for a little bit, readjust their eyes, and then they'll go to the screen. Now we're not going to do any of that stuff, but basically you want to trust your scopes, get that beauty shot, match the other ones, even if the white balance doesn't look right on the other ones. They have to look consistent to what the shot around it, right? So I hope that helps.
And we're overexposed because the sun has just come out.
Yeah.
I can't work like this, man.
Well,
and I think we're done.
I think we're done. We have some more questions, but we'll save them for next time because they want us to know about the production on serial.
Yeah, and then other stuff. We'll do that in another one.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, guys, thanks for joining us for what was really just a test. So we said, well, let's test it out because he's like, hey, I got the seat.
Yeah, Rodney hooked us up.
Hooked us up, man. Rodney B. Hunt.
Don't quit, Gally. Maybe I'll just quit.
No. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. We're gonna figure out how we're gonna do this. Maybe we'll do this once a month, and we'll post this live. We don't know when. Maybe right away, or a week, or whatever, or just throw this up as it is for other subscribers.
And maybe one day Frankie Boy will tell you about the time he did that shoot for Wu-Tang.
No, it wasn't Wu-Tang.
It wasn't Wu-Tang?
Oh, it was
Method Man.
We hung upside down from a chain hoist. And the special effects guy was like, you better listen to what I'm saying, or because if
you're
you
gonna
fall,
die.
Your neck will snap because your arms are like...
He could have been there when Method Man died.
No, he didn't. This guy, I worked with that guy before. He was super pro. But yeah.
All right.
But anyways, we could have swung him like a pendulum, did whatever we want. No, he would have bit me. He's got
he would have bit.
He was tall. He was a big guy. Anyways.
PutMyFocus.tv.
Thanks, guys. Catch you later. How do you end the stream?
You go like this.